Hello and welcome back to Football Daily, where today we are looking at 10 transfers that ruined your club's finances. Let's get into it. 10. Radamel Falcao. Whilst Man United and Chelsea certainly didn't get a return on the $280,000 and $140,000 they invested in Falcao on a weekly basis, with a pitiful 5 goals in 41 games for the two clubs, El Tigre makes this list for his work at Monaco. Whilst his return of 83 goals in 140 games for the Principality club makes him their all-time top scorer and a club legend, there is no doubt that his £38.7 million arrival had a serious impact on their finances. Signed as part of a £139 million net spend across the 2013-14 season, his arrival alongside that of James Rodriguez, who they fortunately managed to flip for £67.5 million after the 2014 World Cup, ensured the club felt the strain. FFP came calling, they were fined €3 million, potentially rising to 13, and had their 2014-15 Champions League squad reduced to 22 players, with the money earned from reaching the quarter-finals being kept away from the club. Les Monégasques learnt their lesson and didn't sign a player for over £30 million for the next 5 years, by which time Falcao and his wages had spent 2 years away from the club on loan. 9. Leonardo Bonucci. Leonardo Bonucci's transfer to Milan in July 2017 was not a happy one for anyone involved. Weeks after being named in the Serie A and Champions League teams of the season, the former Inter player decided to move to Milan after, quote, some disagreements with Allegri. Lauded by his new coach Vincenzo Montella as the best defender in the world alongside Sergio Ramos, and the crown jewel of a summer spending spree that saw the club sign Andre Silva, Conte, Calhanoglu, Biglia and Musacchio for fees of at least £16 million, in their first year under Yong-Hon Lee's ownership, Bonucci was instantly handed the captain's armband. But it's fair to say it didn't go well. Montella was fired in November, Milan finished 6th, Bonucci looked miserable from the get-go, the Rossoneri ended up being sanctioned by UEFA for breaching FFP, and were excluded from the 2019-20 Europa League. Bonucci left the club for a £6 million loss just over a year later, and it's fair to say that the love felt for the 115-capped Italian in Turin has never quite matched Chiellini's. 8. Eden Hazard. Whilst Real Madrid's finances certainly haven't been ruined by Eden Hazard's arrival, after all they recently tried to sign Mbappe to a 5-year deal with a signing-on fee of over £100 million, they certainly have been impacted. Arriving in June 2019 with the Bernabeu's £500 million redevelopment already underway, the effects of COVID-19 meant that the club's transfer plans have been severely affected for the last 2 seasons. They've been forced to offload stars like Hakimi, Odegaard and Varane, bringing in a net profit of £136 million since summer 2020. But that's still only £47 million more than Hazard's fee. And in return, the Belgian has provided 6 goals and 10 assists in 66 games, costing the club over £28,000 per minute of League and Champions League action. Only Florentino Perez's thrifty business and the ageless superstars of Modric and Benzema have ensured Real Madrid have won La Liga and reached a Champions League final in recent seasons. If it wasn't for them, this transfer would have been criticised even more. 7. Hulk and Oscar. To be honest, we could have littered this list with stories from the Chinese Super League. Attracted by the vast money on offer and the promise of starring in a league with ambitious plans to become one of the biggest in the world, the CSL managed to attract names including Ramirez, Tevez and Jackson Martinez in the mid-2010s. The most notable arrivals though were that of Hulk and Oscar, who arrived at Shanghai SIPG during the 2016-17 season for £50 million and £54 million respectively, the 2 largest fees in CSL history. Emblematic of an era of flagrant, uncontrolled spending, the Chinese government soon introduced measures to try and avert a crisis, with a quota on the amount of foreign players who could start, a salary cap of £2.6 million per player introduced, and also a tax where any transfer fee had to be matched by a donation to the league. And they were right to be worried, with champions Jiangsu Suning ceasing to operate in February 2021. Once viewed as a threat to European football, the CSL spending on players like Hulk and Oscar have ended up damaging the division itself. 6. Alvaro Negredo. Alvaro Negredo's 1-season spell at Man City during 2013-14 was a weird one. Arriving on the back of a 31-goal campaign at Sevilla, he managed a very respectable 23 strikes in 49 games, including hat-tricks against CSKA Moscow and West Ham in the Carabao Cup semi-final, and goals against Liverpool, Arsenal and Spurs. Despite not scoring in the league from January, most City fans were sad to see him depart for Valencia for £25 million the following summer. Los Che spent a net £84 million across 2015-16 alone, including over £10 million on 5 separate players, meaning Negredo shouldn't solely be blamed for the club's financial issues. But it's clear that his disappointing return of 10 league goals in 2 seasons makes him a very easy scapegoat. Sold in August 2017 to Besiktas for just over £2 million, Negredo was the sort of mistake that Valencia quite literally couldn't afford to make. According to Football España, the club, which hasn't been able to redevelop the Mostar since first creating plans in 2007, is set to lose €36 million this season, up from confirmed losses of £31.2 million for 2021. Whilst the blame for Valencia's current malaise lies solely with Peter Lim, their spending on Negredo certainly didn't help matters. 5. Zhang Felix. Given the fact he cost £49 million more than any other signing in their 119-year history, they already pay their coach a world record £36 million per year, and they reportedly accrued debt of £178 million during their move to the Wanda Metropolitano, it's fair to say that Zhang Felix's struggles have put an immense strain on Atletico Madrid's finances. Averaging a goal contribution every 106 minutes in La Liga this term and popping up with a crucial goal versus Man United in the Champions League last 16, the former Benfica star is improving. But to have 3 separate spells of at least 7 games without a goal this season suggests he's still struggling to fully integrate. With the club's debts at a reported €999 million as recently as November 2020, it's no surprise that Rodrigo de Paul is the only other player to be signed for over £30 million in the last 2 years who is still at the club. We'd be surprised if they weren't considering selling Felix for a second consecutive summer. 4. Sulley Muntari. When Sulley Muntari signed for Portsmouth in May 2007 for a club record £7.1 million, it all seemed a little too good to be true, and so it proved. He was a 22-year-old player with over 30 caps for Ghana and 5 years of Serie A football under his belt with Udinese, signing for a club that spent £52 million across the season on players such as Defoe, Nugent and John Utaka. He made 33 appearances in all competitions, with his energy and quality vital to their unlikely 8th place finish, their best since 1955, and FA Cup triumph, with the Ghanaian playing the full 90 of their 1-0 win over Cardiff City. Mismanaged financially, the club were forced to sell a number of top earners, including Muntari, Crouch, Diston and Johnson, and eventually faced a winding up petition after their owner, Saudi businessman Ali Al-Faraj, consistently failed to pay the players' wages. The Premier League enforced a player registration embargo on Portsmouth after they failed to show legal documents that they paid for Muntari's transfer over 3 years earlier. Whilst Muntari is in no way to blame, Portsmouth are still recovering from the mismanagement of the Naughties and will play an 11th consecutive year outside of the Championship in 22-23. 3. Jack Rodwell. With Sunderland fans still riding high after finally securing promotion to the Championship at the 4th time of asking with a comfortable 2-0 victory over Wycombe at Wembley, away the lads, the last thing the Black Cats want is to be reminded of Jack Rodwell's disastrous 4-year spell with the club. Signed for an undisclosed fee believed to be around £10 million from Man City, Sunderland had high hopes for a midfielder once viewed as a future England star. Despite what Sunderland fans might say, he's not solely to blame for what happened. Signed by Gus Poyet, the Everton Academy graduate played under 5 permanent managers in 4 seasons and didn't coerce the club into agreeing a 5-year deal worth £3 million per season. They did it of their own volition. But still, when the club pleaded with Rodwell to leave, with Sunderland heading towards a second successive relegation, the Premier League winner refused. Now rebuilding his career in Australia, it's no surprise that Sunderland's local newspapers, the Northern Echo and Evening Chronicle, named him the club's worst signing in their 143-year history, which, trust me, is saying something. 2. Samuel Eto'o. Having represented clubs of the calibre of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Inter Milan and Chelsea, winning 2 trebles along the way amongst his 12 major trophies and 2 AFCON titles, Samuel Eto'o's 2-year spell in Russia with Anzhi Makachkala isn't the most memorable stint of the Cameroonian's career. But it was actually one of the more intriguing. Signed in August 2011, a little over a year after securing Inter's first European Cup in 45 years for £24 million, Anzhi's billionaire owner Suleiman Kerimov agreed to pay him a salary of €20 million per season. 36 goals and 16 assists in 73 games was a solid enough return. But within 2 years, Kerimov had scaled back his investment in the club, and their star players such as Samba, Willian and Eto'o were sold, with the latter departing on a free. Across the last 8 seasons, Anzhi, who now found themselves in the 3rd tier of Russian football, have spent £2.3 million. Whilst their former owner Kerimov has recently had a £240 million super yacht seized off Fiji as part of the sanctions against Putin-affiliated oligarchs. 1. Felipe Coutinho. In a similar vein to many others on this list, Felipe Coutinho cannot be held solely responsible for his failed move to Barcelona. Seen as the apparent heir to Iniesta when he'd never thrived in midfield, and not played in his favoured 10 position due to the presence of a certain Lionel Messi, it never felt like Coutinho truly belonged at Barcelona. Of course, the 51 games missed with injury didn't help, and the 67 cap Brazilian often seemed cowed by his surroundings. but there's an argument that pound for pound, it's the worst transfer in football history. Signed by Aston Villa at a loss of £125 million in May 2022, with his old Liverpool teammate Steven Gerrard impressed by his 5 goals and 3 assists in 19 games, the former Bayern loanee now has an opportunity to re-establish his reputation at a club making major moves in the market. As for Barcelona, their on-pitch performances are showing green shoots of recovery, but it'll take some time for their finances to do the same. So guys, that was 10 transfers that ruined your club's finances. I'm sure we left many out of the list, so let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed it, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe to Football Daily, and I'll see you next time.